And Jerry.
How many do we have?
30.
Well, that's good. So we will get started. I want to welcome everyone to the November 10th Town of Rush Town Board meeting. And I'd like to invite you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and
and
justice
justice
for all.
for
Thank you very much. Will Town Clerk Busey please call the roll?
Councilman Wolver,
Here.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Here.
Supervisor Cusey,
Here.
and also present is Deputy Town Supervisor Mosetti.
Here.
All right, I've got a couple of announcements, some of which may be enthusiastic, some of which may not be. But we'll start with the sexual harassment training that we're going to start here in a few days. And that training is not because of a particular event, but it's because the state requires all municipalities to go through sexual harassment training with their employees. And we've had a program scheduled, and we are going to use the state provided information. And I'm looking forward to it because I used to teach these things in my former life, and I've seen a couple since, and I continue to learn things. And I think that's because, no doubt it's because our life is changing around us. And what was sexual harassment 25 years ago is, or what wasn't sexual harassment or workplace harassment 25 years ago, today is. So I always like to go to these things and learn about them and find out what has changed. And also, I don't want any of you to have to visit me in the Gray Bar Hotel. That's a joke, Dan. The the next item under announcements is the request for proposal for updating the town website. The RFP was sent out to, a large number of vendors who could bid on updating our website. Our website is, I think, about 10 years old, give or take a year. And when you compare it to some other websites, it sure looks pretty dull. So I'm looking forward to having a new website that will create excitement on the part of users and make it easier for people to look stuff up. Today, next item. Today, we had the long-awaited bid opening for the library roof repair. And we had 5 different people come on a walkthrough a week ago. And then I was told that we were going to have 3 bidders, but we actually ended up with 2. And I think I'd like to share with you that the 2 bidders today were between $265,000 and $306,000. Now, that's a large number, but it is more than repairing a leaky roof. So you've got to keep that in mind. This is a construction and design fault that we're going to attack so it won't leak again. And that's why the cost is so high. Because there was some minor problem with distributing the RFP, John Mancuso was going to walk us through an explanation of that and probably be assisted by Todd Ewell so that we can decide as a board whether or not to go forth or what may be another alternative. John, I don't see, are you here?
Yep, I am here.
Can you take it from this point?
I can. So my understanding in looking at everything that was submitted today, we had 2 bids as the supervisor indicated. And the board now has to make the decision as to which one of the 2 bids they wish to accept and move forward with. There were some questions that were raised by one of the bidders with respect to acknowledgement of an addendum that was prepared in connection with the bidding documents. And then also with respect to certain, in this bidder's opinion, whether or not bidders could meet the 30-day requirement for completion of the first phase, which is the library, the roof replacement itself. My understanding, and I defer to the town engineer as well if he has any specific insight to add, but my understanding is based on the way that the bid documents have been prepared and submitted based on both bids, the requirement of the 30-day period is in the bid documents themselves. And so any bidder that has submitted is, in doing so, providing the town with its position that it will comply with those deadlines, because that is obviously part of the scope of work.
Yeah.
I understand from speaking with the town clerk that one of the 2 applicants had submitted the entirety of the bidding package along with the bid documents that were filled out, and then the other applicant, the lower of the 2 bids, did not submit those same materials. Now, technically speaking, under the bid documents, that those materials are requested to be provided in one booklet, not separated, and provided in a package to the town for its consideration. Now, under the documents themselves, the town is permitted to excuse or not excuse, as the case may be. It can go either way. It does not have to, it can reject a bid on the basis of noncompliance, but it can also decide that certain noncompliance may be immaterial with respect to the overall submission of the bid. So that's within the town's reasonable discretion to determine. And so I raise that issue simply because I believe it would be appropriate for the town board to at least discuss how the bids were received and whether or not the board believes, based on one bid versus the other bid, because again, we are talking substantively apples to apples, whether based on the package that was received by the board, whether it would consider the submission to be either one of a irregularity, in other words, non-substantive, or whether it would consider that to be a material issue that would impact the ability of the municipality, in this case the town, to essentially guarantee that performance will proceed in accordance with the bid package, or whether it's going to impact the bidding process or place a bidder in one position of competitive advantage versus another. Because the bidding process, as a general proposition, is designed obviously to make sure that everything is uniform, that everybody can submit a bid in a fair and competitive manner. So that was the issue I discussed with the supervisor today that I think the board should give consideration to and decide in terms of picking one or the other, whether that is a material issue. And with that, I would turn it over to the town engineer in terms of any concerns he may or may not have had with the substance of the bids as received.
Yeah, John, the real question I had was the bid bonds. The bid bonds were submitted with both bids. correct?
Yes.
Both bidders acknowledged that they would obviously meet the scope of work, which was in the bid package. One bid, like you stated, was not compiled completely together. It was in substantive pieces, but all the items were there. So I don't feel that that is truly, it's going to impact their ability to complete the project on time, do the work, or have anything to do with the quality or anything else, as long as the bid bond is there and they've acknowledged it. I did note that there was a discrepancy where one of the bidders did not acknowledge the addenda, I think you mentioned, which the addenda basically was a change of location, where they would place their materials in a yard, which really has no impact on the project. And that was discussed at the pre-bid walkthrough, which both of the bidders that did submit attended. So I didn't have a problem with that either. That's really all I had on that.
Before we open it up to the board for discussion, so that we don't revisit, I'd like everyone to know that both of the bids are from highly reputable and experienced companies. Both bids are intending to start once the date is set, and will continue until the job is completed. Both of the bids are comprehensive and include all aspects of the job to completion. And both will have a bond to ensure the project is completed on time. So I open it up to the board for discussion if you'd like to pursue.
This is Amber Corbin, and I understand the discussion part. I'm just wondering if maybe we could put it down further, maybe on the agenda, in case some people who were hoping to listen to the discussion in a little bit, maybe, I'm not sure how Councilman Woolever feels. I'll be happy to discuss it now or further on the agenda.
Actually, it is under new business down the road a ways.
It is, but because we've been at it for so long, I put it under announcements because I was so excited about it. But if you folks would like to move it down, that's fine with me. It's up to you.
I think I'd like to put it under, I agree, Supervisor. We're all excited about working on it. I just wouldn't want anyone who maybe saw it on the agenda further down to potentially come in a little bit later and miss the discussion.
And I appreciate that opinion. And we will pick it up when we get under new business. Anyone opposed? Thank you. All right. We now have Dan Klimek, our finance director, who is going to give a little bit of peek under the tent flap regarding some benefits plan changes that we're going to encounter in the 21 calendar year. Dan?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Last Tuesday on November 3rd, Jerry and I met with Brian Hart and Joanne Campanella of Brown & Brown Insurance Agency. They're our agents for our health insurance coverages, and we went over the 2021 benefits that the town will be offering. The town has not made any changes in any of the benefit plans for any of the employees. There are 11 full-time employees who do participate. Back in June, Excelis, who provides the health benefit, had requested from the state an 8.4% rate or premium increase, and the state did not allow for that. They have in fact and we did budget for that type of an increase, obviously. But as the premiums now are finalized, the increase for our, what we call our Platinum 5 to now be a Platinum 6 plan is an increase of about 3.6%. And we have 2 employees who are under a Platinum 2 coverage. That one increased by 4.8%. So it's considerably below what we had budgeted for, anticipated. So that's really good news. In terms of changes, obviously, as we've all had insurance plans, the insurance company has made some adjustments for what they do and don't pay on the co-pays and some things like that. Most of that's basically just minor adjustments here and there. We do also offer, the town offers Medicare coverage, over 65 coverage, if you may, for retired employees. Part of the agreement with working for the town is the town would provide what's equivalent to a Medicare Advantage plan coverage for those employees. At the time, back in June, we had anticipated a 6% increase. That has actually gone down by 3.4%. So it's actually going to be a reduction to those individuals. All other benefits and premiums have stayed the same. The town offers a dental coverage in which the town picks up 90% of the single only coverage, and the employees have the opportunity to pay for the difference to get family or employee and spouse coverage, whatever. The town also, and again, there's been no change in those premiums. The town also offers a vision plan, which is 100% contributory by the employee. Again, those rates have changed. And the town also has a $10,000 life insurance and AD&D policy for those 11 full-time employees. And again, no change in the premiums. So the long and the short is there's been a modest increase in the premium. No changes in what the town is offering or contributes to the plans. The same percentages continue. That's about it.
Does anyone have any questions?
Are those only for full-time employees?
This is strictly for full-time town employees, Pam. And I
11?
will be in touch with you specifically as it relates to you, probably on Thursday, so that you understand. Again, the town pays, just to go a little more depth there, the town does pay for 90% of the coverage of what's called the Platinum 6 level of coverage. And we have 2 employees who pay the difference to have a little better plan, what Excelis calls their Platinum 2. Again, any difference between the Platinum 6 and the Platinum 2 coverage premium, if you may, is borne totally by the employee.
And there are 11
Dan?
employees.
11 employees total, yes. We've had, we have
Dan,
one individual who has opted out, one employee who has opted out of the health coverage. And what the town does for that individual is give them $1,300 additional in their flexible spending account that they could spend. Certainly far less than what the cost. Family coverage, for example, the premium on the Platinum 6 is just under $2,100 a month. Single coverage is $729 a month. So a $1,300 annual stipend, if you may, to the FSA certainly works to our advantage, and it's something for that individual who doesn't elect to pick up the Excelis coverage.
Dan, it's Amber. Do you have, I know it's a modest savings, but were you able to calculate what the difference of a savings that will be? Or is it just a savings to the employee?
I don't have that this evening, Amber, but I will be glad to share that with you. Again, I would tell you we're probably looking at about a $10,000 to $15,000 annual difference.
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, Dan. I appreciate it.
You bet.
The last item under announcements, and I really hesitated putting this on, taking it off, putting it back on. And that is, I believe, I've been convinced that we do have a feral cat problem in town. I'm convinced because in certain areas of the town, I find little kitties on the road that didn't make it across, and it's sad. And I know there are a couple of people in town who spend an awful lot of their own personal time to volunteer and take care of these feral kitties. And I know they would appreciate any kind of help, both financial and physical, that anyone would like to contribute to their efforts. If you'll call the town supervisor's office, Catherine Hankins will give you the names and contact for those people who would love to have your contribution and help. Okay, we now go to the public comment period. The public comment period, remember, this is the first period where there is no two-way dialogue. It is your opportunity to express your opinion. And as long as you keep it considerate of those who are also participating, that will be a very good thing. So say what you'd like with that in mind. Do we have anyone, Victoria?
Yep, Dave Slaversky, and he lives at 69 West Rush Road.
Hey, folks. I'm speaking on behalf of being the co-president of the Rush Historical Society and on the 1911 committee. And I'm just going to go through just a linear summarization here. On September 2nd, the Rush Historical Society sent a proposal for the 1911 home. My email and that proposal did go into the spam folder, and it still does. So if you guys can check that out, that'd be nice so you can receive the emails from me, because I know certain people aren't getting them. But we submitted that. And I know Amber finally got it and read it and gave me a personal response. So at least she read it. I don't know if anybody else has, but it has never been discussed to my knowledge at a town board meeting. The 1911 committee, chaired by Chris Miller, finalized a report several weeks ago to give to Dan to the town board. And she also gave the paper printouts to the board members hand delivered. And then tonight, 2 hours before this meeting, we got an email from Phyllis Wickerman saying that Dan was summarizing a report to the town board. Questions went back and forth. It was stated that we rewrote it. I don't believe Chris was part of that. Along the way, Pat Stevens resigned from the group and withdrew her proposal. Last week, I watched the Zoom meeting, and Dan was throwing out figures, 500,000, 800,000. Not a lot of rhyme or reason, not a lot of facts. I did ask the committee I asked him where they came from and no response. Maybe that went in the spam, I don't know. But at the end of the day, then he was talking about submitting 2 questions to the community. Do you want something for 500,000 or 1.2 million? Fortunately, others, Catherine Hankins and Deb Kusi chimed in and said there's more needed to do that. To actually have an official, decent response from the community and methods to do that. So that was nice. This just seems very sloppy, and the process, and I really don't have any faith in Dan's handling of this and the submission that he's going to present tonight. I mean, his last name's spelled wrong. He spelled his own last name wrong. I usually don't spell my last name wrong too many times. I'm sure most of you don't. But it just doesn't feel right at all. And it's a poor process. So that's all I have to add right now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. All right, then next is Marianne Rizzo, and she lives on Stall Road, but I don't know the number.
At 25
25.
Stall Road. So I just want to make an announcement that there's a Red Cross blood drive tomorrow. And I think it's 2 to 6:30 at the Rush Firehouse. And I understand they have a shortage of blood, so be nice to try to get there if you can.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Anything else?
No, thanks.
Anyone else, Victoria?
Going once. Going twice. Sold.
All right.
Nobody.
Next, we have the approval of minutes, and I received my copy of the minutes very late today. Being involved with other things, I didn't get a chance to read past the first page. And I'm wondering if any of the rest of you had a chance to read past the first page and wanted to take action on adoption of the minutes. So I leave it up to other town board members to decide.
I read through it and I'm good with them.
This is Amber. I only got about halfway through them. So no, I am not able to, and I shared that with the town clerk on a phone call earlier today.
And
So
I,
if we could put it to the next meeting.
yes, I will do that because I haven't read past the first page. There's no transfer of funds tonight, but there is an approval of the abstract, which Councilman Woolaver will do.
Having reviewed or on abstract 11-1, having reviewed all vouchers numbers 1007 through 1065, I move that they be approved in the payment of $49,012.85.
I'll second that.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
Aye.
And Supervisor, if I could, there were two large amounts that I would like to report on, and interesting enough, it has to do one with the healthcare costs that the budget director shared. Excellus under 65 for the month of November for $16,418. And then the other large amount was for $4,000 for the grinding at the transfer station. Those were the two large amounts this past 2 weeks.
And Councilwoman Corbin, you know, I always appreciate your penchant for detail because it helps us to understand where our money is going. So thank you very much. Next on correspondence is the updated schedule to the Rush Rifle Range. We generally get them sent to us at the beginning of every month, but the last 3 months have been altered because of the other assignments that basically all police in the area have been sent on. They've had to take the Rochester detail this past 2 weeks and pull them off of their assignment at the rifle range and put them in the street. And now they are able to reassign them to the rifle range. So those who are within earshot are probably going to hear some activity over there until 7 p.m. You know that they usually stop at, or they're committed to stop at 6 p.m., but they generally stop daily from 4:30 to 5 p.m. Well, for the 2 days they've got to make up for street assignments, you're likely to hear them till 7 p.m., so don't be alarmed. And anyone who would like a copy of the recent month schedule, certainly contact Catherine Hankins, the supervisor secretary, or the town clerk, Pamela Busey, and they will provide you with a copy if you'd so like. The next thing is going to be a little bit redundant, the COVID expense update. You know, we're pushing $90,000. And we have had a commitment from the county treasurer that we will be reimbursed for all hard expenses like masks and whatever else we bought, sanitizer, machine dispensers. We will be reimbursed for that. We will not be reimbursed for any wages that we paid during the shutdown. Most towns had that. and they are not going to receive any reimbursement either. So I think it's my opinion that we should be happy we're going to get paid for the hard expenses that we incurred. I'm sorry. Now we move on to reports from town board members and departments. And we'll start off with Town Clerk, Ms. Busey.
I don't have an exact report. I just wanted to say thank you to all the residents who became election inspectors and helped out at the election polls this year. I know it was a tough year with all the mask wearing and everything else. So I want to thank them because it went very smoothly.
Thank you very much. We've got a little bit different order tonight, so Attorney Mancuso, you can go next if you'd like.
I have no report.
That's acceptable. And Finance Director Klimick, I think you already reported. Would you like to make any other mention?
I have no further report.
All right, and I don't think Mark is with us. If he is, speak up. Nope, he's not. I don't think the library supervisor is with us. Kirsten Flass, is she?
I think she is. I saw her.
Oh, well, then if she has a report, we'd love to hear it.
Hi, everybody. I was happy to be able to make it tonight. I understand people have been asking where I've been at the town board meetings, and I just want to report that there are many times that I'm running evening meetings, programs, events, and book clubs on behalf of the library. So I do have quite a number of conflicts with the town board, and I apologize for that. I'm just running the library. And as far as that goes, it's business as usual. We're keeping our hours, our COVID hours of Monday through Friday from 2 to 6. We'll be keeping those through the holidays. If COVID stays at moderate levels, we're hoping to be able to expand back to our previous operating hours after that. So please bear with us, and we hope that you're able to get your needs met by the library during those hours. If you want to know what's going on at the library and I'm not here to report, feel free to check out our website. Our library board minutes are always on our website. My door is always open, and I love chatting about library things. So please come and see me. I would like to give a really big shout out and thank you to Catherine Hankins, the supervisor secretary, who ran the project of installing new phones to the town hall and the library. It was not without some technology glitches, of course. It was a big project. And Catherine has a real determination for getting things fixed. And I appreciate all the extra work she went above and beyond to help us get that all sorted out. Things are running pretty well there now. So thank you, Catherine. And that's all I have.
I will second that compliment and thank you very much. I don't think Pat Stevens is with us. I don't think Augie Minio is with us. I know John Limbeck is with us, and John has some interesting things to share with us. So John, please have at it.
Thank you. I'm hoping that the information package that I gave to the supervisor was shared with everybody. I wanted to start out with the building permit spreadsheet that I introduced at the last meeting, where I'm tracking the building permits that are being issued. We're still issuing permits. A lot of people doing work. I don't have any significant new structures or additions since my last report. Generators, wood stoves, things like this right now. Right now, I'm averaging an hour and a half to 2 hours a day on inspections. And again, that kind of fluctuates with the type of permits that we've issued. Item 2, in an email on the 3rd of November, I had noted, I spoke with the building inspector for the town of Avon because they recently approved a large-scale solar project. And we discussed, it seems to be somewhat of an industry standard to charge $5 a kilowatt to determine the building permit fee. And if we applied this formula to the Forefront project on West Henrietta Road, the building permit fee would be $25,000. I had a telephone conversation with Christian Schlesinger of Forefront on the 5th. I had asked them to provide me with the most recent drawing sets and their construction schedule because I'm trying to understand what their installation durations are going to be because I have to develop an appropriate inspection schedule, and they're going to be installing over 29,000 solar panels at that site. I did understand from Mr. Schlesinger that they're looking at about a 5-month installation period, but that's being finalized within their organization now. I did ask Mr. Schlesinger if he had discussed the building permit fees with anyone in the town, and he has not. I told him that I was leaning towards this $5 a kilowatt fee schedule, and he didn't flinch at all, said he was going to go back and review some of the previous projects that Forefront has done and what they've paid in the past. I did get an email from him today. He asked if that $5 a kilowatt was for AC or DC kilowatts. I spoke with the Avon building inspector late today. He was going to check and determine what that was and get the answer back to me. Any questions on Forefront? I'm trying to get ahead of this curve to understand, what our role is going to be and what we need to do, and just continue to update the supervisor and the town board as we move forward with this. I'm also,
John?
Yes.
John, it's Amber. I just want to thank you very much because we as residents going through the process of approving Forefront and the work that the town attorney and the town board and the planning board and the town engineer have gone through, truly your role has not even come to light yet. But when you mention how many panels and that amount of work for a person who's right now spending, you said an hour and a half, we have to make sure that all residents are being met by our building inspector. And how do you do that? So please keep doing what you're doing because that's very important for us to be able to follow through with.
Will do. Thank you.
And I'll piggyback on that comment and say, I really appreciate having a person in the building inspector position who approaches his job with professionalism that you do, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I've pretty much gotten through a lot of the backlog. I had over 400 emails that accumulated during the COVID when we didn't have an inspector. And I'm starting now to look at some of the permits that weren't completed. And I've got approximately 50 of the permits from 2019 that are still open and active. I've got 5 from 2018 and 5 from earlier years going back to 2014. So basically what this entails is me calling the residents and discussing their projects with them, seeing where they're at, what their plans are. In some instances, I'm finding that the work was completed and they just never notified the town, or they did and there wasn't anybody there to take action on it. So I'm trying to work through that. In some of the instances, I should be charging the residents to update these building permits, and I'm not sure what the town board's appetite is to charge people, for things that may have been outside of their control. So we could probably do that on a case-by-case basis. What we're supposed to do is charge them half of what the original fee was. So in a lot of cases, it could only be $25, but I'll take my direction from the board on doing that.
Any comments from the board members?
Very good.
I'll just follow through. John, when would you like that decision by?
Oh,
As far as Give us a deadline. We want a deadline.
Within a couple
That
weeks.
way we'll make sure.
By
a couple
your
weeks,
next
okay.
meeting, if you could do something by then, that would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, going on to the last item. I sat with the supervisor a couple of weeks ago and I asked him if I could purchase a new tablet for use in performing my functions. I feel that I'm being very ineffective right now in what I do for the town. A lot of it, the town has adopted the IPS software for the building permit process. And to couple that with my building inspections, I go out right now. I look at a particular installation. I've got the drawings, I carry drawings with me. I do my inspection. I go back to the office and then I get into the system and update what happened during that inspection. Oftentimes I'll have field communications with their builder or somebody else to understand what's happening. And the other thing that I'm trying to do, I'm part-time, but I get a lot of calls during off hours. And unless I'm really tied up with something, I don't like to turn those calls away. So I will discuss items with residents, with builders, with developers, and being able to update things as I do that would be very efficient for me. The tablet that I inherited, it doesn't have capacity to download and run the IPS software that we use. And it's old enough that you can't add capacity to that tablet. And then our technical support rep tried to download my Outlook email to that tablet last week. And it took over an hour for it to make the download. And he said it was pretty much corrupt because it didn't have the system that would support it. So I really don't even use it because it doesn't sync properly. And there's virtually no way that, especially without the email, that I could download drawings or any sketches to that system. So the tablet that I put forward is an MS Surface Pro. And if you look at my report, it goes into all the technical details of it. And there is a typo on there that I apologize for. I used the bigger brother to this Surface for the last 5 years. Before I came to the town, I had over 1,100 drawings downloaded to that tablet. I had software that I could edit drawings. I had emails, and I had the capacity to document field conditions, generate reports, do my emails. And these also have the capacity to be updated with new software updates and with new programs. I also listed in my report the IPS software partner, BAS, that the town uses. They gave me the list of attributes that any device would have to have in order to run that IPS software. And they strongly agreed that the Microsoft Surface Pro that I listed would do that. And the one that I listed here, I said it was I used its older brother. The one that I used in my previous job had the capacity of 1 terabyte of memory, which allowed us to work so efficiently with the drawings. So the Surface Pro has all the options that are required, and this is rated as a business-oriented tablet as opposed to a student or a household tablet. And what I did is I laid out the costs on the sheet. I showed the tablet, the keyboard, the charger, the case. We would have to do the Microsoft Office package and the IPS license for the tablet. So you're looking at $3,500 and some change. And I guess what I'm asking for is I just want to be more efficient when I perform my duties. Right now, I travel to the field, I do my inspections, I return to the office, and I document activities in IPS Outlook. And if I could do that while I'm out in the field, today I went on 4 inspections, And when I finished those, I could sit in the driveway, update the software, generate the reports I need to do, and go on to the next one, and not have to do that when I got back to the office. If I had the drawings, the capability of having the drawings right on the unit, it makes it that much easier that I'm not dragging 4 sets or 5 sets of drawings out in the field with me. And you can make notes, different things right on the drawings with the tablet. The other thing that I didn't list on there is that I can also download the town code and the entire New York State building code, the fire code, and the energy code right onto that tablet and have that as a reference. The technology of the existing tablet is beyond its useful life and can't be upgraded. And as I said, the Surface Pro, that's capable of being upgraded with additional memory and software upgrades. And again, with any technology, its useful life is going to be approximately 5 to 7 years. So that's what I was looking to do. Another thing that I spoke with Jerry about is we will be traveling to Florida at Christmas. My daughter and her family are down there, and we're spending Christmas with them. And I will be probably quarantining for 2 weeks when I get home. Having the availability of this technology would allow me to still function while I'm at home. So that's my case for a new tablet, and I'd be willing to answer any questions, obviously, or any concerns that people might have.
John, it's Amber again, of course. I know when the town clerk ordered a new laptop, hers, I believe, is not coming in until February. What is the time frame for the technology you're requesting? And what was the vendor again? I don't remember.
Best Buy has the units in stock. And
do,
the
okay.
IPS license, that's available. That's a download. And the Microsoft Office package is also available. I listed the purchase option. As with most software nowadays, they also have an option where you rent it for $70 a month. And it doesn't change that much over the years that I thought that would be beneficial as opposed to purchasing it.
Well, it's definitely something we need to definitely have that conversation, especially with the advent of these large tier 3 solar installations.
I don't disagree.
That's a good thing to consider in our future, Amber, that John does not have to put up with now, but he will. We know it's coming, it's inevitable. And do we want to assist him in making his job more efficient when that tidal wave rolls across the town? So that's a good thing to mention. Dan, how about you?
I think he needs it. If it's going to make the job easier. I don't like the cost, but I think we need to do it.
Well, I think easier and efficient as well.
Yeah. Is this available through our IT, through Pinpoint at all, or sometimes I know we buy stuff through them?
I
have a feeling.
Look into that. I just, got the pricing that, for the presentation.
I would think just about any place you're going to be paying premium dollars with all the schools and industries that are purchasing them. So, but I agree with you, Dan. Yep.
Deputy Supervisor, you're savvy about technical things like this. Do you have an opinion you could share?
I'm only speaking, from personal experience, nothing major. That seems a little pricey for me for a Surface Pro. But I mean, if that's the going rate, that just seems like a lot of money for a laptop, tablet, device, computer. I know that, I don't know, would it be worth it, Pam, if we reached out to the guy at Pinpoint and said, what does Microsoft offer? What if we bought it directly through Microsoft?
Well, John can certainly talk to Pinpoint. I know that the things that he's also talking about, I really didn't look over the spreadsheet that he provided, but there's a lot of different things and licenses that he needs.
Mm-hmm,
And if he can use it out in the field, I think it's more than worth it,
mm-hmm.
especially with all that he has to do. He's got a job that's supposed to be 20 hours, so there's a lot to
John,
do.
what was the base price of just the tablet?
$1,499.
Okay.
And again, that they've got Surface Pros that go up to $3,000, and that's when you start getting into the terabyte of storage and those types of things. And I scaled back from them because I don't have the same number of drawings that I had on. Like I said, I had 1,100 drawings on my last one. That was, that much higher priced version of this.
What Surface Pro were you looking at? The 7?
This is the Surface Pro X with a 13-inch touchscreen. It's got the Microsoft SQ2, 16 gigabyte memory, and 256 gigabyte solid state drive. And that
Okay.
256 is about the minimum. The next one up would be the terabyte, but I don't need that. But to run the drawings, to run the IPS, to run the Microsoft Office package, that would be the one that would be about the right level of robustness, if you will.
If
Would-
the board
would
agrees,
the-
do you want to see what Pinpoint has to offer if they have a lesser price and just go with whatever the price is that is agreeable to John?
Well, I'd like the board to comment on that. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And, but I'd like the board to decide whether or not we need more conversation or to go with that proposal that you just made, Pam.
So it looks
I kn-
like, sorry, Pam, go ahead. Who is talking? I
it
couldn't
was-
see, sorry.
It's Amber. I know that in the budget for next year, there was, and obviously this year as well, there's a maintenance on that tablet as well as the code enforcement officers. So I don't know if that would be a little bit of a savings. I think it wasn't a couple $100, it was higher than that. So that might help offset some of that as well. Sorry, Victoria, go ahead.
So if I am looking online correctly, it looks like the Surface Pro X's are starting between like $700 and $900.
Correct, and it's when you start getting into some of the lower priced ones have a 10-inch touch, or a 7.5-inch touch screen. And in order to run the IPS software that we use, 10 inches absolute minimum, and 13 and above is what they recommend.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that. Just think of a small tablet you have at home. I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine looking at plans on that size screen.
Yeah.
Do we want to adopt Pam's suggestion that she made about contacting Pinpoint? And if they give a competitive price that John is comfortable with, go for it, or do we want to discuss it some more? Dan, Amber?
I think we have to go with it, and just shopping for price is the only thing we need to do. And it has to meet John's specifications. We
Right.
can't skimp on it.
We have to make sure all that software he's done the research, can be uploaded. And if Pinpoint can do that all at the same amount, and we use them with the town. So I agree with
Okay,
that.
so Pam and John, I expect that you two at your convenience will look into the Pinpoint inventory and see what they have that they might offer, and make a decision based on the discussion we've had here. Is that good?
Mhm.
All right. Anything else, John?
No, I'm good unless anybody has any other questions. My biggest issue right now is making sure that we've got a good plan for forefront, and moving forward, we're comfortable with what we need to do. And I support what Amber said, because you know, they're just one customer. I've got 55, 60 other residents that need equal attention as well. So that's what we're going to try to balance.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Next on the agenda is old business, and would someone like to make a
Can I report?
What didn't you report on?
I didn't report on anything. You went in a different order this time.
Oh, my goodness
Right?
gracious.
Yeah,
Did I
none of our
report-
names are,
you-
none of our names are on the agenda.
I've got your
That's
name.
okay. I got a long one, that's why.
Well, you go ahead and deliver your long one.
All right. This is Amber Corbin. I attended the Conservation Board meeting on November 5th as the town board liaison. They discussed a subdivision application for a site plan approval before the planning board, and that property is located at 517 West Rush Road. Number 2, update on Tier 3 solar energy system installations in Rush. The first one is Forefront Power LLC at 8427 West Henrietta Road, Warner Farms. The last step in our town solar law process is to hold a public hearing, to amend the official Town of Rush zoning map to create what's called a solar energy system overlay district for Forefront Power LLC development. That public hearing is scheduled for the next town board meeting, which is on a Tuesday, November 24th at 7:15 via Zoom. This property is zoned R30 residential. If the town board votes to amend the zoning map, the property will be overlaid with a solar energy system overlay district. If you'd like more information on this project, the town website has all the information under their solar projects. And you can also reach out to myself or any board member as well. There is another one called Helios, Rush Solar Farm 1 and Rush Solar Farm 2 at 540 Honeywell Falls number 6 Road. It's in its preliminary stages. An update on Horseshoe Solar. The Seneca Media and Communication Center has produced a 17-minute video called Protecting Our Ancestors. The Seneca Nation is greatly concerned about the impacts upon ancestral burial grounds in Rush from Invenergy's proposed Horseshoe Solar project. You can view their video on YouTube, Facebook, and their website, which is sni.org. And again, all the current Tier 3 solar energy system projects can all be found on the town website. Thank you.
Amber, thank you very much, and I apologize for trying to skip past you. How
I
about
wouldn't
you,
let you, you
Dan?
know that.
You wouldn't let me, right? How about you, Dan?
No report.
And how about you, Victoria?
I am going to go later on in the meeting.
Okay. So let's move on to adoption of the 2021 budget. First, I'll ask, does anyone want to have any discussion? And if there's no discussion, I'm looking for someone who would propose a resolution to adopt.
I'll just say I learned a lot my first time through. It was very educational, a lot of work, and I appreciate everyone's effort. And if no one else, I'd be happy to read the resolution. Dan, did you have anything?
Go ahead.
All right. I so move to adopt the 2021 preliminary budget dated September 23rd, 2020. Could I have a second?
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusie,
Aye. Thank you all. The next item under old business is the Monroe County Fair Site water. I know we've reported on this before, but we have a little bit of an update. The last time I reported on this, the process was slowed down almost to a standstill by the COVID pandemic. And I recently received notice that it is starting back up again. So We are very anxious to have that project start going and have our participation in that project on the map. And hopefully that'll produce good things for our fair site and BOCES campus in the not too distant future. Any questions? All right, we'll move on to the comprehensive plan meeting summary by Deputy Supervisor Mazzetti.
So Pam, I will type this up for you and send it to you. On November 10th, which was yesterday, last night, we renamed our committee. It is a very long name, but it is the Comprehensive Plan Resource and Recommendation Committee to the Planning Board. We met over Zoom last night for about an hour and brainstormed how to move forward, some previous documents to look at, and to make some action plans moving forward. Our next meeting is Monday, November 23rd, 6 to 8 p.m. It will be over Zoom. And what we plan to do on that Monday, November 23rd from 6 to 8 is to go into breakout rooms where everybody is assigned either randomly or if they're interested in a certain document from our history. So whether it's the Farmland Protection Plan or the old comprehensive plan or the charrette or all of the work that was done with the RRR years ago, there's going to be about 7 different breakout committees that is going to look at what was done, what wasn't done, and on all of those documents. And then we'll come back together as a large group and present out and continue to move forward with that work. And if anyone still wants to join, you're more than welcome to join. I have heard from some last minute people that wanted to join, so it is still open. Feel free to contact me.
Given all the enthusiasm that I heard about at the meeting last night, do you have any feel for the life of this committee? To
The
get
life,
to it?
the
Yeah,
life.
to get to.
It's
get
an
to-
awesome committee. We had so much fun last night. We were laughing, singing, and dancing. No, I think it's a really good committee. I think it has a lot of people that are interested in the overall well-being of our town. I think it has a lot of people on it that are interested in making our town a better place. I think it has a lot of people in it that you necessarily wouldn't always see at board meetings, which is really good to share their input. And there's a lot of different perspectives and different ideas. A couple new residents joined us and said, hey, I'm just new here in town. I wanted to see what this was all about. So I've got a good feel for the committee. I think, you know, our first meeting, we were all getting along well, talking, communicating, making sure that everybody had a chance to voice their concerns. So I thought it went fairly well.
That's really great to hear. And I think Deputy Supervisor, you might be on for number 4, the Riverside Refuge update.
Yes, I spoke with a gentleman named Matthew Howard for Doward from A Horse's Friend, which is currently over on Stony Brook Road in Rush. He reached out, I think through Pam, and Pam through Jerry, and then I got a hold of him. So the plan, he is interested in looking at the property over the RRR property for his horses. It sounds like to me that he has a camp or a training or horseback riding lessons for students that otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to participate in horseback riding lessons. So we will be touring the property this weekend. And I reached out to the Deputy Highway Superintendent for the keys again of those buildings. And I said, this is, you know, kind of the process that we did before. We toured the properties, we toured the buildings so that you could get, you know, your eyes on it. And then I told him that an appropriate next step would be that we all meet as a town board and with John Mancuso, because that's what we did last time when another organization was interested. And he said, okay. So again, very beginning stages, we'll see where this goes, but he is looking for a new place for his horses and for his organization.
Any questions? It's a little early, but you never know. Thank you very much.
And I just had one more thing to say. I forgot to press the live YouTube button. So I'm going to have to wait till this meeting's over, download the recording and then upload it. So we are not live on YouTube. I'm so sorry for anyone that wanted to have an appearance this evening, but I will upload it by the weekend.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Oh, Dan,
Yes,
I wonder if you had anything to share with us on the 1911 house.
I met with Phyllis and we put together just a summary of what the committee had come up with. And it comes down to, they had 4 proposals. If anything's gonna get done, we need to hire an engineering firm, an architecture firm to get some kind of baseline on what kind of money we're gonna have to spend if we're gonna save that house. Or put together a price for a recreation center.
Now, has the decision of what the house should be used for been decided on? Is it
No, we
history?
need to come up with a price, and we can't come up with a price until we put a price together. I mean, we need to, if we're gonna save the house, we need to find out how much it's gonna cost to save it. And to do that, we're gonna have to get a baseline from them. The only architecture firm that responded to me said $10,000 just to get a baseline possibilities. Then we'll have to form a committee to see what we want to actually do with it, and then put together a price, and then we can ask the people if they want to go for it. But we need to put together prices. Otherwise, I'd like to make a motion that we spend $10,000 with Peter L. Morris to study the house, to see what we can do with it, what the possibilities are. If we're not going to find out an actual price on saving it, we might as well just tear it down.
Do we have a tear down estimate?
Yes, we do.
How much
Other
is
than
that?
it's guessing. And we can't put that out to townspeople. We think it might cost this, you want to spend any money. We should have some firm numbers, and to get firm numbers, we got to hire somebody.
And do
Any-
you have an actual written bid from the engineer and the tear down so that we can actually see it on paper?
He told me I'll get a hold of him. He told me $10,000 ballpark. I'll get a hold of him, have him put something together.
And same thing with the tear down, because we need to have it in writing so that we have something to show the residents in
Committee
town.
has that. I'll get that too.
Okay, thanks.
Dan, the weather has been on your side.
It's a small leak, Jerry.
And well, small leaks do a lot of damage, you well know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And we
Can I-
need to, yes, you can.
Can I ask, when Dave Slabursky came on and the email we got back in September from the Historical Society, was that looked into by the committee, Dan, that you're with? Did they have that in front of them as well?
What's that?
The
email?
Historical Society committee's
Yeah, they
email
have
that they sent us?
They have that.
So am I correct in thinking there are 3 options? One is tear it down, one is develop it into a
I
historic.
know that the committee sent that to everybody. There's 4 options. Could authorize the expenditure to hire an architect, keep the house, bring it up to code for a multi-use community building, or demolish it. Town board could authorize expenditure to replace the roof prior to winter so that the structure does not continue to deteriorate. We could demolish the house. We have an estimate from Frederico Demolition that was dated April 24th. Or we could sell the building and the property and just let it go. I mean, those are the 4 options the committee put together back in September, and they've been distributed.
So your
Well-
opinion of what your next step is?
we have to get, we have to get prices together to what it's gonna cost for anything that we do moving forward. Actual hard price. The only price we have is a price for demolition.
Can Todd Ewell and CHA give us a bid as to what they would charge for their fee?
Todd, what do you think?
I know you,
Yeah, I spoke to Dan early on about this. This isn't something really, Amber, that we specialize in, this type of thing. So I give Dan, we talked about architects, so I was surprised, Dan, you only had one response. I won't mention
that's-
any names in public, that we discussed because it's not appropriate, but maybe we can talk after the meeting. But yeah, Amber, we did discuss it. I would like to know what Frederico gave you. Is that something you can share or not? To take it down?
Yes, well, it was like 24,000. Kirsten Class actually has the quote, I believe.
yeah, it'd be nice to be able to actually see the quotes so we could, again, have Todd look at them. And Todd, hopefully you and Dan can talk, and maybe Todd, you can work some magic and call some of the engineers and
Yeah,
see if they can give us an idea what they would charge.
yep.
I'll
I
give you
can
a
make
call
some
tomorrow,
calls.
Todd.
Yep, I will. Thanks.
Okay.
Mhm.
And is that the copy of the report from Chris that I received today? Combination
No,
report?
that's a summary of the report from Chris.
Oh,
that-
okay.
That you received.
Oh, that's the one with your name spelled wrong from Chris, right?
Apparently, Phyllis is a better
Okay.
typer than me, so I
Well-
let her
well-
type it, and she can't spell my name.
Thank you.
I have not gotten a copy of that. So Pam, if you could distribute that to the rest of the
sure.
board members. I only
Same
have the
here.
one from October 14th, Dan.
Okay.
That's dated October 9th. I don't have anything before that. This is the only one. I
The
have.
one from today is just a summary of the previous one.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
anyone else?
A lot of decisions next meeting.
Oh, my Lord. You got that right. And Amber, I'm going to give you a decision right now. I know we've got a meeting scheduled on Thursday, but do you want to update the residents and the Genesee Valley Railroad Museum and the Rush Recreation Park Association progress? I'll call it
I think,
progress.
no, there is progress being made. Lots of discussion, but we are meeting on Thursday. So I wouldn't want to report anything that hasn't been finalized or understood before then. So I'll be happy to report out at the next town board meeting unless you have something further, Supervisor, that you can share out, or Councilman Woolever or Attorney Mancuso.
No, I think both Dan and I have information, but it might not be current. And knowing that you're going into a Thursday night meeting, it certainly won't be current. So we should refrain from any information delivery until the next board meeting.
I agree.
Okay.
Now, insurance requirements for background checks. Did someone want to report on that, or would you accept my? I guess you'll accept my. We were asked by our insurance carrier to provide information on all employees who would drive during their work time for whatever the reason. And the insurance carrier has requested some information that I think in most instances would be considered highly private information, not to be shared. But in this particular case, the carriers want the information, and specifically name, address, and New York State license numbers. And Pam, I know you raised an issue, a concern about this. Would you like to comment on it?
I just thought that it would be good information to provide to anyone that was submitting information to you of why you needed it.
I agree with that. And there was also some previous discussion on insurance requirements for background checks. I don't know if we ever finished that discussion. You may recall our recreation, excuse me, supervisor talked about a program that would have a cost basis starting at $16 per employee to do a complete background check to ensure that we are comfortable with them working with youth in our recreation programs. Is there any more discussion on that you'd like to share with us? Anyone?
I think background checks are important. In education, it's done all the time. And if they're working with children, yes,
Mhm.
I'm in favor of it.
I agree.
I agree.
Supervisor QC doesn't, Pat does background checks right now,
Uh,
but there's some additional
yes,
background information
Mhm.
and background work. She said that was very complicated, that the
Well-
insurance carrier wanted.
as you can imagine, an insurance carrier who would like to have you comply with their requirements, they'll offer a group 1 plan, a group 2 plan, a group 3 plan. And what I mean by that is, the basic plan would be $16 for a background check. The next step up might be $24 for a more complete background check. I personally think that we can show our commitment by having the basic background check. And I think that's important that we're able to do that in the event that anything happened. We live in a, what is it, John? A litigious, thank you, society. And you never know when someone's going to send you a little invitation that might not be good for you. So I'm inclined to ask Pat to go ahead with that, if the rest of you are in agreement.
Yes. I agree.
Yes.
Okay. I will inform Pat of that on Thursday. The next new business, the Battery Moratorium Research Work Group. Amber?
Yes. Oops. Yep. I'm not muted. All right. It's been a while coming, but we are ready. And I'd like to ask the board tonight to approve or have discussion and then hopefully approve a Battery Moratorium Research Work Group. The charge of this committee would be as follows, and I apologize, I have not sent this to the board. I will do this as soon as we're done. Our charge will be to investigate and study battery energy storage systems, which they call BESS, B-E-S-S. We currently have a moratorium in the town of Rush. The charge would be to do research, possible recommendations that will allow the town board to have a better understanding of the battery energy storage systems and to make more informed decisions. Additionally, they will work and report to the town board and the greater Rush community, hopefully will strengthen and support the eventual decisions within our town. The charge will also include to study and analyze many considerations that affect the preparation of local legislation to regulate the future creation and siting of large-scale battery energy storage system installations, to identify and review local laws from other jurisdictions and related information and source materials in order to assist in developing the parameters of a local law to regulate large-scale battery energy storage system installations, to also identify other committee members in surrounding counties and towns that are investigating these battery energy storage systems under their county or town moratoria. There are many towns around us that have it currently. Gather existing town reports as examples, such as the hydrofracking, renewable energy committee, and others. Establish meeting timeline, frequency, agendas, minutes, a timetable for reports to the town board, interim reports, presentations, and written report. And then needing members with many different perspectives. Hopefully we can find someone in town that either works for the New York State Department of Labor or OSHA, solar and wind installation installers, someone from maybe the RIT Sustainability College, engineer, Rush Fire Department safety officer, Rush Fire Marshal, code enforcement officer, and disaster coordinator. These are just suggestions, looking for ideas. Business owner, someone from the Conservation Board, past Renewable Energy Committee members, and others. Trying to get a very wide range of perspectives and people that can bring their own expertise to the study. That's what this is. It's a research study group to understand and bring that information to the board to understand these large battery energy storage systems. Sorry,
And this
Jerry,
is-
go ahead.
This is to stay ahead of the curve, to make sure
Yes,
that when confronted, we know how to react.
we currently have a 1-year moratorium. And it's up at the beginning, I think February, March. It all depends. I have to ask Attorney Mancuso, is it from our adoption or from when the town approves it or the state gets it? I'm not sure if we have that answer or not.
It's a year from the effective date, which is effective upon filing with the Secretary of State.
Okay. So I have that. I just don't have it here in front of me. So open it up for discussion with the board. If we have the moratorium, this is our time to do our due diligence. And they would report to the board with educating us. No recommendations, but just giving us their feedback for our decision making.
Well, I think it's much better to be proactive on this subject rather than reactive. So my vote is to yes.
Yep, sounds good.
So I have 2 questions then to follow up. Does the board have a preference as to the number of volunteers to be in this work group? And 2, does each volunteer need to be appointed by the town board to be part of, because I'm going to make a motion to approve this battery moratorium research work group, which will report to us. How does that work? Is this all new?
Oh, I'm looking for
Pam?
John. I'm looking for John to brush me off, but he's not doing that. You know?
It's really up to the board. I mean, so there's a number of ways you could do this. If you want the board if you want the subcommittee to provide, a report and written report, and if so, what the scope of that written report is, if you want them to report back on a more informal basis, more interactive with your board, it really is completely up to you. You're creating a subcommittee at your discretion. So how you define the parameters and what your deliverables are for them, entirely up to you. This has a legal component, but also a very practical one. So there is obviously engineering and expertise that's going to be needed to evaluate that. And then the legal parameters are something I can certainly assist that committee and or the town in crafting what that law ends up becoming.
I think that Amber, is it your intent to facilitate that group?
Unless someone else wants to, I would be happy to.
Well, I think that would all depend on what you think is a manageable size. To answer your first question, I think I heard that question. And I
think any more than 7.
certainly would trust your experienced judgment in deciding that. I don't think that we need to complicate things by having a resolution to appoint. I don't know how
Okay.
the rest of you feel.
I also want your suggestion of people with an expertise, not just people who kind of know what they're talking about and could bring some actual knowledge to the committee, not just people.
And I know what you meant, Dan. And that was my thought in talking with some residents, because we do have, this is a moratorium we're talking about, how this is not just a citizens committee working on something that is super important as well. This just has
Yeah.
that different component as
Yeah.
Attorney Mancuso stated. So 7 or less, we don't need a resolution, but I will put the chart, or do we, John? Are we good? What do you think?
I mean, historically, the board has adopted resolutions to memorialize that the committee is in existence. At this point, I don't know that we have a committee yet in terms of what its configuration might be. I mean, I think what I would suggest is probably trying to pin down the first part, which is who's interested and what do those people look like, and then maybe moving forward from there to sort of define the parameters of what needs to happen.
Okay. A follow-up to that, Attorney Mancuso, is given this is a moratorium, legalese wise, I mean, that's my kind of what I'm asking is to have that memorialized in a resolution. Does that strengthen us as a town to state, yes, we are doing this, we have it on record type of stuff, or it really doesn't matter?
Well, the important thing from the town's perspective is that it proceeds in an organized and collective fashion to craft a local law that will eventually replace the moratorium in some way, shape, or form, with the expectation being that the town is going to regulate battery storage in the town of Rush. So through, the normal course of affairs in creating the committee, forming the members, getting reports and other due diligence prepared. Certainly, if the board feels it appropriate, I don't have any problem adopting something simple for the minutes in terms of authorizing the formation of this committee to be filled with residents or other professionals in the discretion of the town board. If that's something like what I just said is palatable, we can certainly adopt that and have the board polled and move forward from here.
What do you think, Supervisor?
I would agree to that. I will agree to that.
So would I.
So can we just say so moved, or do you need me to come back next? So moved?
So moved my resolution. If you would
I
poll the
like
board,
that, yes.
town clerk.
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
Aye.
and Councilman Corbin, can you send me that information thing?
Charge.
And do you want me to put
Mhm.
that specific thing on the website so people are interested? If they look at that and they have
Absolutely.
the meetings, that would be good.
And reaching out to the 34 people that I'm looking at right now, if you know of anyone or you have such an interest and background, you can find me on the town website. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you all.
I am so done.
I would, next, under new business, it stated a review of all vendor contracts. This is something that I think came as a result of my inexperience. And when I would ask Catherine Hankins, the supervisor's secretary, about certain things, she would discover that there was no organized manner in which to provide an answer. So she suggested a vendor matrix. And the vendor matrix would list everyone who provides a service to the town of Rush, what service they provide, how long is their contract for, when is it up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a good idea because you can go to one spot and get your answers. So I'm proposing that to the town board to get your answers.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. And in my new town board training back in January, they said that should be done every year. Look at your contracts, see what can be improved, what's new. So I'm definitely in favor of that. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I don't think we need a resolution, John, to adopt that.
No, that'll be for internal bookkeeping purposes only.
Right. And
I think we do have, the finance director does have quite a bit of that information already. When we were audited, we had to provide that information.
yeah, it would all be incorporated because that is pretty thorough, but there are some things that aren't included. And to find them in one spot would be really great.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that it did exist.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And the next item, number 3, is a resolution to adopt records management updates. And Pam, I think this is your proposal. So would you like to make a few comments on this?
Well, I believe that we did, I did say something last time. There are 4 different disposition schedules within the state, and they have combined all of them to be one. And this one has to be adopted before the end of the year by all municipalities. So it is required to do.
Would you like to read the resolution, or would you like me to? Or would we like to have some discussion?
Well, one of the board members should read the resolution.
I'm a board member.
Go ahead.
Anyone want to discuss?
Nope, I'm
All right.
in favor of it.
I propose resolution 2020 to schedule a public hearing on records retention and disposition. Councilperson Me moved to schedule a public hearing for local law amending the code in relation to record retention and disposition on December 9th, 2020 at 7:15 p.m. at the Town of Rush offices, 5977 East Henrietta Road, Rush, New York, pending Governor Andrew Cuomo's executive order.
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusi.
Aye. And I just wanted to mention record retention. I've got to go back in my former life 30 years to when record retention first surfaced in the corporate world. And they took it very, very seriously. And I've often wondered why we don't have that same very, very serious approach. I think Pam does because she understands it, but I don't think the rest of us do, not maybe the way we should. But working together, we should be able to figure that out in the future. My humble opinion. Resolution on employee bonding. Would anyone, Pam, I think this was your baby too.
This is a bonding that is required as my responsibilities as the town clerk and mostly the tax collector, as well as the deputy town tax collector, deputy town clerk, as well as the finance director, because we handle the monies for the town. So it is required, and our insurance carrier will be submitting our certificate. I believe we are using, you said, the same insurance carrier. So they will be providing A and B of the certificate as soon as they have that available.
Any discussion? All right, Pam, can you propose your resolution?
I'll be happy to read it for her.
Thank you.
Okay,
I so move that the town board of the town of Rush hereby approves the surety form and amount of the official undertaking for the faithful performance of the duties of the town clerk, collector, deputy town clerk, and finance director as filed in the town clerk's office. The type of undertaking is a public official liability, employee dishonesty, computer fraud, funds transfer fraud. Insurance company Walsh, Duffield Companies Incorporated, A to be determined, B to be determined, the amount $250,000, town clerk and tax collector, amount of $250,000, deputy town clerk and deputy tax collector, amount of $250,000 for the finance director. A true copy of this resolution shall be affixed to the undertaking to indicate this board's approval thereon in accordance with town law section 25. May I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Councilman Williver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
aye. And now we can move on to our roof repair project and have the discussion that's necessary to decide if we want to go forward. I've already told our attorney that there's no alternative to that. We're going to go forward, but he also knows that discussion could come out of one of you that would cause that to happen. In other words, not go forward. So I think, John, you covered it pretty well. And I think, Todd, you covered it pretty well previously. And I think, Amber, you asked to postpone it so we could have more discussion than what we originally had. So I invite any of you to make a comment, ask a question, and see where this takes us.
If both are very reputable companies and both have fulfilled the the RFP equally, then I think we should go with the lower price.
I am not an expert by any means. I'm curious, Dan, given your expertise, any idea why there'd be such a difference?
Not really.
Not really, okay. I had to ask. I just.
I'll give
What
you an
about you,
opinion.
Supervisor? Okay.
I'll give you an opinion, but it's not as educated an opinion as you might get from Todd Ewell or John Mancuso. But I think looking at this project, this is, and I can't emphasize enough, this is more than putting a new roof on.
Very involved.
And it's very, very, very involved in correcting design and construction mistakes that have been in place for 15 years. If I were to bid on a project like this, if I were a contractor, I would want to make sure that I covered my expenses against the unknown, because there's some possible unknowns involved here that will not be discovered until that existing roof comes off. And I would think that this would be just a little risk diversity for the contractor. Now, why would one build it in and the other one wouldn't? I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I certainly would have built it in to cover myself.
Do we have any idea how they're gonna go about actually doing some of the interior in the roof area? I mean, is this gonna involve shutting down the library for any amount of time?
Yeah, that's a darn good question. Initial conversation revealed that they thought they could do it like with a Friday shutdown and a Saturday shutdown, or on a Sunday with a Monday or a Tuesday shutdown. Now that we have the possibility of identifying a contractor, I don't know if the contractor who ultimately gets identified would agree to that, but that's what was originally discussed. Todd, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, that was what was discussed, Dan. I think what you need to do, obviously, is once you decide on who you're going to move forward with, then you sit down and you basically walk through a phasing plan with them, and they'll give you a lot more detail on everything. But we did do a pretty thorough walk, went out to the library, went up in the attic, exterior, interior. There were a lot of questions asked. I asked near the end of the tour, obviously, is there any showstoppers here? Because we wanted to be fair on both sides and understand it. And of course, they're pretty open. They didn't see any real heartache with the project. There is one area, the back of the building, where they want to get up and look inside the very top, off where the cell tower is through that little window. So
Yeah.
that was mentioned and discussed by QPK, by Bill, and everybody was receptive. They'll have to get up with a little lift. It just wasn't accessible,
Yeah.
But other than that, like Jerry said, there shouldn't be too many surprises. But these guys are good at what they do, reputable contractors. So, you just gotta, you gotta go with it. The weather's with us now. We don't know how long it's gonna stay. So that was one of the, big concerns.
Yeah.
But move the design process and this construction along,
The roof itself doesn't seem to be a problem, but the interior stuff, I just think can be a headache.
You
Right.
looked at it.
Yep.
Moving material around in there and just trying to get the job done. It's just, I didn't know if part of the ceiling would have to come down to, I don't know.
Yep. And the goal obviously was the first 30 days, hit the roof, get it watertight, and then,
Yep.
Then things are safe for the library and the town.
Yeah,
Inside.
if the roof is stopped leaking, even knowing that it's not the whole job, the inside can be attacked after the roof is stopped from leaking.
I understand that the roof, stopping that leak is fine, but when we start to get ice dams, that's where we're having a lot of the problem.
Yep, agreed.
And that's what needs to be, that's the hard part. Roof's nothing.
So it's a $40,000 difference between the two. Supervisor, you gave the pricings out for fairly close. Am I allowed to say all this? Is that okay?
I don't know why
'Cause this
not.
Are the bid
Um,
information supposed to be public and
Yeah,
presented to the board?
well, you read the
Attorney
bids.
Mancuso?
Yeah, you read the bids aloud, right?
Yeah.
Public
I mean, the
open.
bids have been opened in a
Yes.
Oh, I
advertised
didn't know
Zoom
if they had to
meeting.
be, okay.
So the $40,000 difference, a couple hundred, give or take. One, they've all done $1 million projects. One's done a lot of roofing and interiors for the Rochester City School District. The higher end one, Town of Brighton, RIT, and the Spa at the Del Monte. So they all, from the project size wise, they're all a lot higher than what they are quoting us on. But again, I'm not an expert. What I don't want to have happen is that a project gets started and they don't finish, because that's not what we want. We want to have confidence. So I'm going to rely on you two with your expertise,
I don't
and Todd.
have any reason to think that they wouldn't be able to complete the project per the RFP as written. Now, I'm just talking like a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience in the business. But, you know, there's always a possibility that what if the company were to go bankrupt in the middle of the project? You know, I suppose that always could happen, but they are bonded to cover that kind of a loss. So,
Okay.
you know, stuff can happen, but I think we're protected. And I would leave that up to John and Todd to ensure that we have all the right documents in place to make sure we are protected.
That's what I want to make sure we are. Absolutely.
Because, you know, if they tore the roof off and ran to Buffalo, Dan would have to replace it.
Yeah.
We'll get a crew in there.
And John would be right there holding the ladder with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right.
I'll manage that one.
So I guess the question I have is, John, given the opinion expressed by one of the bidders, should we go forth with this? And can we do so with little or no risk, given their concern that they voiced?
Well, so the question is, and I hate to place it back in the hands of the town board, but ultimately their question is more of a question that they've raised with regards to what I believe to be either a material issue or a irregularity. I mean, my understanding from the town clerk is that, you know, they're one of the two persons who submitted did not provide a physical copy of the underlying bid documentation along with the signed bid proposal and other deliverables that were required under the bid package. It's up for the board to decide whether or not that constitutes an irregularity or whether that's something material that would necessitate either the board deciding that that bid should be rejected or decide that it isn't material and shouldn't be rejected because you have assurance that the town itself will not be deprived of the contract being entered into, will be guaranteed and performed in accordance with what you've proposed be done. Certainly the proposal that they signed specifically references that they will acknowledge and agree to perform all of the tasks that are called for in that document. And I believe the town engineer, you know, expressed a similar opinion of that early on in the meeting. You know, so ultimately it's for your board to decide, because you do have that flexibility within the town law and general municipal law, and the contract itself specifically says you may reject something that's non-conforming, or you may decide, being the operative word, may decide that it's immaterial. So I'll turn it over to the town engineer if there's anything further to add on that point, but ultimately the three of you should decide whether you believe it's material or not material.
Could we get the material from the contractor that he failed to give us with the submission?
At this point, you need to re-advertise. You need to start the process over again. You need to re-advertise, solicit new bids if you feel that, and you have that option as well. You can decide that nothing meets your, nothing is to your satisfaction and you don't like any of the bids and you want to start over. That is something that is within your discretion to do. The documents, if I can explain, so the documents that were not contained in that package are the documents that we as a town adopted and approved as being the bid package itself, which was three separate components. It was the specifications, the Form AIA contract, and then the additional, addenda to the AIA contract. Those three things are supposed to be attached effectively to the proposal. And correct me if I'm wrong, town clerk, but if I've stated that incorrectly, but I believe it was those three that were not provided. But otherwise, substantively speaking, the executed forms that are required were otherwise identical in form from the two.
There was one other part, John, where the higher bidder hand wrote under number 7, addendum 1 dated October 26, 2020, acknowledged and included. That the representative of that company also said that that wasn't included in the other bid and should have been, that handwritten statement.
Well, I don't think, again, and I think the town engineer mentioned this earlier, but my understanding is that that document the addenda that was issued contained a construction, contained a plan with respect to the staging of where materials may be located, and also specified the date on which that the bidders would have an opportunity to inspect at the town hall. And I understand that everybody showed up. And so my understanding is they all received the addendum. They showed up on the day, and the town engineer spoke to the substance of that. So, you know, again, unless the town engineer has an issue substantively, it sounds to me as though both bidders were aware of the addenda and performed in accordance with that addenda. Is that an accurate statement, Todd?
Yes, yep.
Well, obviously, what I don't want to do is get us into a situation where we have to spend money to defend ourselves. I know, John, you'd love that, but I'm not fond of it. And I don't know if Todd would be fond of it, because I think Todd wants to see this project completed also.
Yep.
So I have to rely on your expertise, John, to tell me how much risk will be associated with wanting to select the bidder tonight and notify them tomorrow.
Well, I mean, I can't. So from a risk standpoint, I can never advise anybody that there is no risk associated with an activity that's, I mean, just the action of taking an approval carries with it some degree of risk if there is an individual that has a particular disagreement. I will tell you that, again, I don't, from what I've heard tonight, from what the questions that were raised, I don't believe there's any merit to the particular arguments that have been made. And I believe the town engineer has indicated that from a substantive standpoint, there's been no issue with the nature of the addenda that was issued and the bidders that were on notice of that, and the substance of complying with it. The addendum itself, per our contract, is incorporated within that document, and that's expressly set forth in the bid package. So any addendum is part of the contract. It's part of what's acknowledged by anybody that's submitting a bid. And so they are agreeing to comply with every aspect of those contracts, including those addenda, by virtue of making the bid submittal. And presumably that the each of them showing up on the date, going through the walkthrough, understanding the staging area, they understood what that addenda meant. And so by signing the bid package, they're necessarily acknowledging that addendum as being part of the overall contract documents. You know, again, I can't speak to what that, you know, what a losing bidder may or may not decide to do in the future. You know, again, if the board wishes to rebid and go through the process again, it certainly can do so. There's no guarantee that, you know, we show up 30 days from now and there's still somebody questioning that they don't believe another bid is satisfactory.
My question was focused on the subject matter content contained in the bid RFPs, not on somebody's mood of whether or not they want to take a chance at us.
Yeah, and John, can I add, the addenda had no impact on the bid number. It was a location of a material storage yard, which is right adjacent to where it was going to be. You know, that was all. And everybody was comfortable with that. Actually, it was better location for them, so.
No one protested.
Nope.
Board members, comments?
So if I can take us down to the simplest level for me to understand what you could just talked about for the last few minutes. One contractor did all their paperwork one way, and another contractor did it or didn't submit something quite like the other contractor, but it's not necessarily what wasn't submitted is actually part of the contract. Did I say that correctly or no?
I believe that's accurate. What was not submitted is nevertheless part of the contract. Was that
Mm-hmm.
what you stated, Councilman Corbin? That is an accurate statement.
Because that's reflected in the contract, though that verbiage that it's part of it.
Yes, and if you'd like me to read the specific paragraph, paragraph 1 of the bid proposal specifically states that the bidder declares that the bidder has carefully examined the bid documents, including but not limited to the specifications and any plans relating to the above entitled project and the work, and has also examined the site of the work, hereby offer and agree to furnish all materials and fully and faithfully construct, perform, install, test, operate, and execute all work in the above entitled matter in accordance with the bid documents relating thereto, and to furnish all labor tools, implements, models, forms, transportation materials necessary and proper for the purpose and/or the prices as given in the bid proposal. So they are acknowledging in sum and substance that everything in the bid documentation, they are going to carry out the necessary tasks to perform that obligation. And the bid documents includes everything in the specifications, including all addenda attached thereto. And each one of them, I understand from what was circulated by the town clerk, they have signed that bid proposal.
Think about it like this, Amber. When they initially received their RFP, the parking lot at 1911 was identified as their materials marshaling area and their vehicle parking area and equipment parking area. After I had a lengthy conversation with Bill from QPK and Todd, we decided to give them some additional space on the grass between that parking area and the library to lessen their need to transport over the longer distance. And that's part of what this is about. As
Okay.
Todd Yule has said, that particular component of this bid package has nothing to do with what needs to be done to fix the roof.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Dan?
Good with it.
All right. John, should we have a resolution to elect
So you-
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you wish to proceed tonight, Supervisor, you would want to move to authorize, there would need to be a motion to authorize the town supervisor to sign a contract with the winning bidder. And you can identify that by name and address for the roof replacement project at the town hall. Subject to approval by the town attorney for a price not to exceed what the winning bid would have been.
I think that a attendee just asked a very basic question about whether or not the other bidder could come back on us. I think that's what was said, was printed. And
One question, you want me to read it, Jerry?
yes,
Yeah,
if you
I didn't
could.
see it. What was it?
One question I have is whether the other bidder could come back and challenge it.
And I think that's what the supervisor was asking about the risk.
Yes.
I mean,
Maybe
anyone can challenge anything. I mean, whether or not they're successful is a different story. The issue that it boils down to is whether or not, and again, I'm not presuming that the board has decided on which bid to choose, but assuming it's the bid, if we're talking about the one who is saying that the other did not submit certain documentation, then the issue is whether or not this board believes that that's just an irregularity, and it's in the best interest of the town to waive that irregularity, or whether or not you consider that to be a variation that's material. And in terms of deciding whether you think it's material, the issue is whether or not the waiver would deprive the town of any assurance that, again, as I said before, that they would not perform the duties and obligations that they're required to perform under the contract. And if that waiver is going to sort of impact the competitive bidding process, if somehow prejudicing the ability to do the competitive bidding in a standard fashion. I mean, that's effectively what the town is judging. From what I heard from the town engineer, from the discussions of the board, it didn't sound to me as though the board felt that this was a material issue, that this was sort of an irregularity, and that you had assurance that everything would be undertaken faithfully in accordance with the contract. And if that's the case, and you believe there's a rational basis for that, then you may proceed. I mean, that particular issue with the addendum, I think, has been discussed. I mean, you know, again, I don't think it impacts the price or the timing. It's the staging, and it's two things: the staging area and the date on which everyone showed up to do the inspection. And I believe everybody showed up on the date to do the inspection.
They did. Do I have a proposal?
This is your baby, Supervisor.
Well, I think that our attorney advised someone should propose that the supervisor be authorized to sign on behalf of the town. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to authorize myself, but I don't think it is. If you feel hesitant, if anyone feels hesitant, I will understand.
Well, we have two proposals. The work, from everything I'm hearing, is above board. They followed the scope of the RFP. Is that your understanding, everyone?
Yes.
That's fine.
So I'm ready to get the roof fixed and the library fixed. I just don't know how to word the resolution. Maybe Dan does better than I do. I'm not sure.
I move to not allow, but have the supervisor enter into a contract with, what was the contractor's name, Jerry?
That was UDN,
UGN to,
UDD.
UDN to repair our roof.
Subject to approval by the town attorney for a price not to exceed. And what is the amount?
26.
268,777.
269,000.
Yeah. Sounds good.
I'll second it.
Councilman Wolver,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey,
Aye. And we are done with that. Thank you for all your participation and wrist ringing. It is much appreciated. I think we're going to go into attorney-client privilege. We will not conduct any business when we come out.
This will actually be an executive session to discuss pending litigation involving the matter of Stewart versus Town of Rush. So someone would just need to move to enter into executive session for that basis. And have a second.
Do we do the public comment?
Oh,
Do we-
we forgot public comment. That's right.
Oh,
Second public
Dates.
comment period.
oh my, thank you, Victoria and Mrs. Barnett. Oh my gosh.
So-
Yes, we've got a second public comment session before we go into executive session.
Okay, so I think it's just Carol Barnett.
That's okay. She's worth listening to.
Hang on. Then
And
Marion
Marianne.
Rizzo, then Deb QC.
See?
All right, so Carol,
Wow.
Marianne, Deb QC.
Yes, and I would like to remind everyone that this is a session where you can not only comment, but seek a response. And please recognize the need to be aware of those who are also participating and to make sure that you don't make any statements that could offend anyone. So please have at it.
I'm Carol Barnett. I live at 117 Lions Road, and I'd like to make a comment about the 1911 house. As a frugal person and as someone who likes to preserve things and not waste them, especially pretty historic houses in our hamlet, I would like to make a suggestion that you get a bid for, or really simply patch the roof, so that you don't have to have a rush to tear down, to spend $25,000 to tear down a house because you're afraid it's going to rain. I mean, seriously, you don't have to replace the roof, just patch it.
The roof has been patched as much as it can be patched.
Really? Is that, is
Yes.
everyone agreed on that?
Pardon?
Is everyone agreed on that?
Roofers have agreed on that.
All right, then replace the roof. How much would that cost?
At least $14,000.
Well, sounds like a bargain when that will salvage the house and then you don't have to spend $25,000 to tear it down. It may need some other nice things inside that will make it better. And maybe you don't have to bring it up to code if it's a historic house. I think you could explore those possibilities. So that is my suggestion.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear the other town board members discuss it.
Well, my opinion, which Dan has shared with me for several months, and that is the number one requirement for that structure is if there's any idea to save it for whatever the use, is to get the roof fixed to stop the infiltration of water. That would be very bad to continue, and we can't allow that to happen. The problem is we don't have the other data in terms of numbers to make a decision as to what direction to go in. I hear costs of, and I don't want to be accused of throwing around numbers because I haven't seen any hard numbers, but I know the recreation supervisor brought me a proposal written on the lunch bag that would have amounted to $800,000 to $1 million, $800,000 to $1 million. And I said, oh my Lord, we don't want to get involved with that. On the other hand, we don't know what the total number is for the history group who wants it preserved. And I haven't really seen the hard copy of the demolition proposal. So there's a lot of unknowns here to deal with. I mean, I hear the number of $25,000, but I have not seen it signed
They'll send it
by,
out tonight.
that'd be cool.
Demolition quote.
Can we get the,
For
can
$14,000,
we-
you have a house. And for $25,000, you have naked earth, and you have to do something there that's going to cost you more money. That's the way it seems to me as a resident and a taxpayer. So I'm really disappointed that you just don't buy yourself a time to resolve what's obviously a very contentious issue by just spending $14,000 to put a roof on the building.
can we get the contractor that is going to be doing the library to give us an idea? Because they're doing one roof, maybe they can potentially, they're right there. That might be a savings if they're right next to it.
Well, I agree with that, but I'd want John to assure us that there would be no complications coming out of that.
Well, I do know as a resident, Carol, I can relate to what you're saying because for years we have sat at town board meetings on the other side of the table, I often say, and the 1911 house has always been, something's been being done to it. So this board, it's our duty to get that information and make that decision. So if it needs a new roof, we need to look into that. Otherwise, we can't answer Carol's question.
Are we at a point where we could authorize Councilman Woolaver to pursue a contract to replace that roof? And not
That's
to exceed a certain amount, because I don't have any idea what it would cost.
The rental agent got a price of $14,000 probably a year ago.
Well, we need,
Yeah,
if
but
we
he-
can, Dan, we need,
Would that need to go out to bid, John?
Yeah, I was gonna say the cost of the roof the procedure by which the town will solicit proposals or bids is dependent upon how much we believe it will cost. So up to, and I'll have to confirm the town's procurement policy, but I believe in the $10,000 to $20,000 range, you can proceed by RFP process. If it exceeds a certain threshold, you're gonna go into a bidding process, just like we did for the library roof. So there is still a process that needs to be followed. It is dependent upon how much we think it's actually going to cost. I mean, do we think it's materially higher than what that estimate would have been last year? I mean, I know everything's going up in price in terms of construction.
It would be more than that than last year, but if we should put together an RFP and put it out there so we have a number.
and there are local roofers in Rush. Get a couple
Yes, there
people in
are.
there, give us an idea.
Yep.
Okay. Carol will have an answer in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Not an RFP, but we'll get a better idea for you.
Thank you.
All right, Carol, then Marianne Rizzo, then Deb QC, and then Kirsten Flass, and then Catherine Hankins.
Hi, Marianne Rizzo, 25 Stoll Road. Yeah, fixing the roof felt good to me. Felt like what I would do if if it was my home, or, you know, it is all our home, but makes sense to me too. But what I wanted to say is, I wanted to ask you a question, Victoria. It sounds kind of nice with the horses on the Rush Riverside Refuge. I'm just wondering what the organization is, who the organization is.
A horse's friend.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
And the website is just ahorsesfriend.org.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you, Carol.
Is that it, Marianne?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Deb, you're next. If you could state your name and address for the town clerk, that would be fabulous.
Great. Deb QC 55 Rotzel Road. This is in regards to the records retention question. I guess, you know, I'm a logistics person at work, and for me to determine what it is you're going to retain, you need to have a list of the documents you're going to sort through and what you are going to retain. So again, I would like to know what the responsibility is of the town clerk or Rush, what documents they are responsible to retain. So as you go through your record retention decisions of what you're going to throw out or not throw out, I would like to know what criteria you're using of what you're going to keep or not keep. That would help me understand what records the town is responsible to keep. So I would like to see a listing of what criteria you're going through for that that whole project.
I can
I
address
would-
that. So, Pam, if you want to go ahead, I was going to say that the list is about 400 pages thick. And it's actually publicly available. I could certainly, or the town clerk could provide that, the booklet effectively that provides the disposition and retention requirements. It's quite extensive, and I'll leave it at that, and the town clerk can certainly jump in and supplement.
Yeah, I
And
believe you can get it on the website. What it is, Mrs. QC, it is previously the MU1 would be by department. So I would look up to see buildings department. You have to keep all buildings records. You have to keep them permanently. As far as tax collection, those have a 7-year lifespan, then you can get rid of those. There's certain things for the library office. There's certain years, 6 years, 7 years, or permanent for most every document.
So this
So
is all, I guess the question, this is all manual. It's not an automated process based on date.
correct.
So is that something the town is considering, to automate this based on a certain date of record? So it's not a manual process. I'm not trying to problem solve here, but I'm just trying to understand how you can, how this is going to be executed, I guess. And I'll just throw that out. So I appreciate that. And if there's a website for me to go to understand what that is, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I believe it's New York State Cultural Archives.
But it does surprise me that that's a manual process.
I just want to add that that I have read through most of that, believe it or not, and there is no provision to allow customization for an individual municipality.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I have to go get my charger cord. My computer's about to die again. Amber and Pam, you're the co-host, but it's Kirsten and then Catherine Hankins.
Gotcha.
You guys are on your own. I'll be right back.
I'm
Kirsten, you're up.
Kirsten Flass from 77 West Rush Road. And I'm talking tonight in public comment period about the 1911 House Committee that I was on. So Chris Miller became the chair of the committee after the deputy supervisor stepped down. We continued the work that she started, and Chris provided the town board with our 2-page report, which was full of data, back around October 14th. And it should have had some attachments with it. And I'm not sure whether you all received those attachments. It would have had John Limbeck's report, which was the building condition survey. It would have had the asbestos report and the Federico demolition quote. So there should have been lots of data for you to be reviewing as a town board. The committee believed that there were 4 options for the town board to consider at this juncture. The town board could authorize an expenditure to hire an architectural engineer. And we have the name of one engineering firm that was interested and had done this kind of work before. And then a sub list of that are 2 options that the architectural engineer could help determine whether to keep the house, conduct the necessary repairs to bring it up to code as a multi-use community building that could be shared with the Historical Society. It could be a community meeting room, a senior center, or any other use to be determined. So it could be restored in stages. And as a cost-saving measure, the second floor could be used only for storage at first, as funds allow, or as grants are secured and repairs are made to bring it up to ADA compliance. The other option might be to demolish the house and construct a new town recreation center / multi-use building. We have the demolition quote. The architect would be needed to determine the cost of a new rec center / multi-use building. So those are two options that the architectural engineer could help with. Another option would be that the town board authorizes an expenditure to replace the roof, just like you mentioned, prior to winter so that we do not have further deterioration of the whole structure. Because everything's a system, and if the roof's not working, it's going to affect other systems of the building. So replacing the roof now would buy the town some time to determine what the community would like via a survey. This committee recommends a survey to every town resident, and that could happen in the newsletter and via social media. Another option would be to demolish the house, revert it to lawn. And again, we've got that demo report. Federico did have the asbestos report in hand when they generated the report for the committee. And then a fourth option is to sell the property. Now, this committee didn't feel like it was our decision to say what the building should be used for. We didn't have an official charge to decide what to use the building for. We were to come up with data for the town board so that the town board members could have facts available to aid them in decision making. So I'm just trying to clarify what the committee did, and every committee member had a chance to give their feedback before we gave that report to the town board. We haven't met since then. We're waiting to hear what the town board wants to do. And once the town board decides what they want to do with that building, there are members of this committee who would like to continue to be on the committee, but we feel like it would really need to have a charge and a deadline. So I just wanted to update people in the audience who might not know the whole history of what this committee's been up to. We worked really hard and we volunteered our time, and that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Yes, you can ask why.
So this is Deb QC again, 55 Rotzel Road. Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing that. And I was on the committee early on in February with Victoria, and this is great information. So I would like to ask, why wasn't this all shared with in a town board meeting, and to, you know, show progress of this committee with these options for discussion with the town board at a public hearing?
I'm not the chair of the committee. Chris Miller was designated as the chair of the committee. We were asked to share our document with the town board, and we did. So that's what we've done. The town board has had this information since October 14th. And that's all I can say.
I gave the options at the last meeting.
I guess
That's what the board came up with.
I didn't see any definitive information, and that's what I think we were all kind of puzzled about, that we didn't see any business comparisons or dollar figures. It wasn't a formal presentation, I guess. It was just random numbers that I didn't really understand where they came from.
And I'll just add to that and I'm not speaking for the entire board, I'm speaking for me. I can't vote to put on a new roof to save the building if I don't know what the cost of that is going to be. And to know what the cost is going to be, I've got to have a document submitted that has a letterhead on it, like Dan Woolaver's Roofing Company, with an estimate and proof of insurance and all that stuff. Otherwise, I can't go for it.
And the committee can't determine how much it will cost to bring that building up to code. We are not engineers, we're not roofers. We're a committee of citizens like you, and we were clear with the town that wasn't our charge, and it wasn't, you know, we're not the experts. That's why you need to hire an expert to tell you what it would cost to bring it up to code. Once you have that number and you have a roofer estimate, then you could put it to in a survey to the townspeople and say, would you rather spend this amount of money on a new roof to buy time? Would you rather spend this amount of money on a new building? Would you rather spend this amount of money to demolish the building? That would be a survey for all the townspeople to take part in. We did the best we could with what we had. There were times when it was difficult to get information. I think probably Victoria could second that, based on the beginnings of our committee. That it was tough sometimes to get information from old minutes. So we did the best we can. And the town board has the full report, or should have the full report. I'm happy to resend it out to everybody. And I know Pam got a copy of everything for the minutes, so.
Let me assure you that your committee, the committee you're on, has not received any criticism from the town board whatsoever. We did get that full report less than a month ago, I think it was. And I still don't know, sitting here, if that building should be used for recreation, for history, for landscaping. I don't know. And I, even worse, don't know whether or not to say, let's put a damn roof on it to save it, because I don't know if that roof is going to cost $15,000, $25,000, or $35,000. And we're in pretty tight straits right now, as you well know, with other roofing problems. And, I'd like to get this roof fixed, but I don't know how much it's going to cost.
You want me to get one quote, or do you want to put out an RFP and get several?
I'd like you to get three quotes right now, just so we see if we need an RFP or not.
I agree with that.
I'll get some quotes.
And if
Now-
they're coming in high, then we need to take it to that next level. Sorry, Supervisor, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Now, if we do have those three quotes in hand, given the consideration of the time of year, I would even call a special board meeting to make a decision on one of those quotes, because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm not in favor of letting that roof leak inside, and I haven't been. That should have been replaced months ago.
Years ago.
Well, that's going at the core of the problem.
And Kirsten, at the last town board meeting, Dan did speak about a survey, and we went back and forth, didn't we, Dan, about putting it on the computer, sending it to everybody, talking about what has been the history and the data of sending that out, what kind of percentage. Dan talked about putting different numbers on. So we did have that big discussion, but you're right, nothing progressed from that. So now we're here, we're going to get three quotes. Dan, where do you think things? What about with the
if I were to be told tonight, okay, the committee has spoken, the residents have spoken, we want to use that building for a history office and a smoke shop, I would say, okay, that's what the community wants. That's what the committee wants. Let's do it. But before we do that, we got to get the damn roof fixed. How much is that going to cost? Let's get somebody in here to fix it. I would vote for that tonight.
But we don't have the numbers. We
I
gotta
don't
see it.
have the numbers.
Super.
So, Dan,
So my turn, is it?
Well, I want to make sure, Catherine, please, that Dan knows what the expectation is. And
Well,
that,
I think I'd like to speak to that, Jerry, because, I had brought it up last week, and I certainly agree with what Carol Barnett's saying. And I also agree with what Kirsten is saying is that, we can have some more input from the community. But when we go to do that RFP, we should probably make sure that we identify a patch, making sure that it's secure. I've certainly put a lot of roofs on, a lot of pricing a lot of roofs, pricing a lot of houses in this town. So I really question whether we need to even spend anything more than $14,000 unless we're going to take the entire roof down. But I'd like to really make sure that we do the minimal and then we do the maximum in reaching out to our community and really go back to what Dave Slaversky said in the beginning, which is we have never really discussed in this forum the proposal that was submitted by the Historical Society and what the Historical Society and the History Office means to this town. You know, there's a lot of support, and across the state, every town, every municipality has a historian. Why? Because history is so important. And what can we do to help bring these artifacts and to the community? What can we do to do that? And let's be reasonable in our quest. A lot of communities, and we did a lot of homework through the Historical Society that has not been thoroughly discussed in this forum. It was great to have the 1911 House Committee, but part of that was to really recognize that Linda Henry came to the town board way back and a long time ago to say, can the Historical Society take a real primary responsibility? In order to do that, we have to listen to them. So fix the roof. I'll be very glad to do a very simple RFP and get it out to roofers. We have so many right in our own backyard. And I'm sure that Todd Fritz, who lives here, could give us a really ballpark price for a minimal repair to make sure that we go through the winter. But let's be practical, let's be frugal, let's be conservative, and let's be inclusive. And we're already working with, Victoria is doing a phenomenal job of trying to pull together the comprehensive plan, which is going to take time. John Felsen reminded us that we had a survey in 1993. Let's revisit that survey. But when you do surveys, you have to do far more reach out than a postcard. You have to do far more information than just A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's be really careful when we go to our community and ask them lots of questions that really will give us a significant understanding of what people in our community want. But I really would invite the board to invite Dave Slaversky and Janet Cruz, who are the co-presidents of the Historical Society, to really make a presentation. I guess I'm being
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
Thank you very much.
Catherine, I did not hear the last 2 sentences.
I just want to encourage the town board to invite Dave Slaversky and Janet Cruz and Sue Me, our town historian, to present their vision of what that building could be used for, separate and distinct from the 1911 committee that has done a very good, strong job. And Kirsten, you gave us so much more insight to what that report carried other than just the 2 pages tonight. So I really appreciate that. And many of us were in shock when we heard 500,000, 800,000. You know, what does it buy us? You know, so as a taxpayer, I have never, ever minded paying taxes to support my library, to support my recreation activities, support this town. I want to be aware of what it's costing, but I am very supportive of the Historical Society in our town. I have seen it become a real nucleus of activity. So I want to really understand what that proposal is, how it's considered by the board. And I have not heard any discussion of that. So I'd like to help get that roof fixed. I've done many RFPs. I've done many contracts. Dan, I will help you get that done, but let's do it in a very effective way and reach out to a certain number of contractors so it's not a huge amount of money. I don't think $14,000 is I think that's a lot of money. You could take it down and I mean, just thinking of what roofing cost. We can do that and get this roof fixed before winter. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. And Dan, I'll come back to what I was going to ask before. is there a date you could give us for providing us with 3 estimates to fix that roof?
We're both muted, Dan.
Dan, you're muted.
I'll call around tomorrow and get some prices. I don't know how long it's gonna take to get back from roofers, but I should have them in
All
a
right.
week.
And I commit to calling a special board meeting if you get those prices so that the board can vote on that and get that going, because I think that's more important than anything regarding the future use of the house.
Okay,
I don't think a temporary fix is appropriate, and
No.
and we should think about the long-term use of that house, whether it's a history museum or a cigar shop. Thank you very much.
sounds good.
Okay, so next is Dave Slaversky, and then after that is Sue Me.
Hey folks, Dave Slabersky, totally different. The last 3 years, we've had drones flying over to do our assessment. I, as a resident, have not heard anything from that and was curious if the town could give us any idea when we will get reassessed in writing and have an idea where we're going.
The plan is to provide that reassessment activity in 21. It was temporarily held up because of the COVID. I know it seems like everything gets held up because of the COVID, but that's the truth. And I spoke with the assessor recently, and he said the plan is to go forth in 21.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Victoria, you're on mute.
I'm muted. Sue Me. And then Carl. Sue, are you there? Where are you?
I am. I was just having a little delay. Yes. Thank you, everyone. I would just also like to reiterate what others have already stated in support of obtaining the roofing estimates. I think rather than making a hasty decision to demolish the house and lose another period home within our hamlet, we owe it to really fully investigate the cost options involved. I think it's imperative that we, as a community and our town board, have the full information so that we can, welcome the opportunity to have a fully informed discussion on the future of the property. And I welcome that, and I'm glad to see that the board is willing to consider obtaining those estimates so that, a better informed discussion can take place going forward, and that maybe the proposals that are before the board already can be better considered. So thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, so Carl, and then Marianne wants to speak again.
Okay, I just had a couple quick comments. One, just again, thank Kirsten for articulating the whole thing. That was very well done. Thank you. But I just, going along with what everyone's saying is, we have 2 options: one, to keep the house or to sell the property. Either way, fixing the roof, repairing the roof would enhance both of those options. So in the short term, as well as, potential for if it was sold. So we all know that the roof's one of the best things for a resale value. Other thing I was wanted to ask is, as far as construction going to the forefront solar facility, and so that we're not overtaxing our inspector, do we have a mechanism in place that a separate engineering firm or inspection firm, construction inspector, would be hired and paid for by the either the contractor or the or forefront for that, so we're not using our town forces for a large project?
Well, Carl, I can inform you that that very discussion has taken place between me and the building inspector. And that's a concern that we both have because of the uncertainty of a project of this size in the town of Rush. And the building inspector has inquired from area towns about what they encountered when dealing with a massive build out like this. And there's not very many who have the experience.
Right.
So this is going to be part fly by the seat of your pants, react to it as necessary. And I have assured him that if additional resources are necessary when it comes time to start that project, the shovel part of the project, that we will back him up with resources so that he can do the job effectively and continue with his current responsibilities.
Right, and I believe that the cost should not be borne by the town for these additional services. It's as with any permit, like a permit project where we're dealing with something extraordinary, private enterprise gets a permit to build based on the amount of work that's necessary to inspect it. So yeah, please consider that.
I can assure you that the cost of his services on this build out will not be borne by the citizens of the town of Rush.
Very good. Thank you.
That is why he has already reported that he's checked around. You may recall his report when he talked about 5 megawatt, and he got asked a question, is that AC or DC? And I don't care if it's A, B, C, D, as long as we have the ability to permit the process of build out and cover his expenses.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right, it's Marianne Rizzo, and then looks like Deb QC wants to speak again.
Hi, I'm wondering about everybody here, and I wonder how many of you have been to the Livingston County Society Museum. If you could raise your hand if you've been there, or if you could raise your hand in the chat, because I had never been there. I mentioned this at one of the last meetings. Thank you, Jerry. Anybody else?
Amber.
They have a lot of very, very exciting artifacts there.
Well, I went there twice in September, and they're open on Thursdays and Sunday afternoons. So I was really impressed. It's in Geneseo on Center Street.
Yep.
I'm just seeing if anybody else raised their hand in the chat. But so I just want to encourage everybody to go there, and it really made me think about the heart of a town and the heart of a county, and it'd be nice to reflect that for our town. And not to say that, I mean, I know it could be a multi-purpose building, but it'd be nice downstairs to have something like that. But I hope you can go. I hope you can go there. Again, it's Thursdays and Sunday afternoons. And I'll even go there with you if you want to go. If someone wants to go with me, I'll go with you.
They have an incredible display of, if you want to truly learn about the Savannah oaks that are all through this area. It is quite, I never knew why they were called that, but it's awesome. I'm speechless.
I saw that. Yes, it was very good.
Thank you, Marianne.
All right, Miss QC.
Yeah, hi Deb, I'll be brief. I just want to reinforce what Carl was saying about the billable hours, because I remember early on when we talked about solar and all that, how we were going to do the accounting for escrow and being able to bill back to the landowners or the investors the resources required by the town, so taxpayers were not absorbing those costs. And it would be very good for I guess, the supervisor and Dan Clemick to revisit that for the town to reinforce that they understand the process of how they're accounting for those resources to ensure that the taxpayers are not paying for these kinds of things and that they are billed to the escrow account. So thank you, Carl, for reminding me of that and bringing it up again.
That I would just want to reply, and then I'm going to turn it over to Amber because she knows more about the escrow accounts than I do. But basically, the funding of the escrow account by the developer is different than the funding of the building inspector to examine the build out.
Right, but I want to be able to ensure that, because we talked about this early on, that our engineer or our, meaning our rush engineer who we're paying, our building code enforcement officer, all have a mechanism to bill or charge a project for their work. So it's not, taxpayer dollars.
That's all true, and that's what John was talking about when he presented a while ago. He's trying to make that determination so that he can place a cost on a permit that would provide that kind of support to his time involved in inspecting a build out.
Right, and I would just suggest at this point, because until we determine the cost, that you track the labor hours associated with the work. Because it's very early and we don't know what that cost is. So I just want to just reinforce that we're all on the same page.
Thank you very much. Amber, do you want to comment on the escrow accounts?
I'll just add that since taking office, that's been one of my number one priorities, is to follow the money. And every time there's an abstract, we look at it to make sure that it's going through the right accounting, because up until this year, there were some questions I had. In fact, I'll be visiting Deb, either the town clerk or Dan Clemick, well, not because he's not in town, but before about 2 years ago, we're trying to get all the way back. So we have to pull some records to make sure that those were taken out of the escrow. So we are definitely on that because we want to make sure no taxpayer dollars are funding that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amber.
There is no one else for public comment period.
Really? Then I move that we go into executive session. And when we return, we will adjourn this meeting.
Do you want to just verbally say the next meeting dates, Jerry, for everybody?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Do you want to just verbally say the next meeting dates for everybody?
Well,
Or do you want me to?
I can, if you want to read it off, that would be fine.
Sure. So the zoning board is not tomorrow because that's Veterans Day. So the zoning board is Thursday, November 12th. The planning board is November 17th. The town board is again another Tuesday, and it's the public hearing for the rezoning forefront solar overlay district, and that is Tuesday, November 24th again.
Thank you very much. Can I have a second to move into executive session?
I'll second it.
Just let the motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation for Stewart versus Town of Rush.
Correct.
All right, what do I do, John? Stop recording?
Councilman Wolver,
Oh,
Aye.
Oh, after.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor Cusey.
Aye.
Now you can stop recording. Waiting room?
mm-hmm.
You'll have to let them back in.
I did.
Oh, okay. Didn't see them.
Elizabeth
Okay,
is
there.
on.
Okay. Having completed all the business in our attorney, in our executive session, I move that we adjourn this meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Wilbur,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye.
Good night.
Good
Be
night.
Good night,
safe.
everyone.
Good night.
Happy Veterans
your-
Day.
Happy
Wear your
Veterans
mask.
Day to you.